Let's get started with the MV Developer Edition AWS image. So if you haven't already, you'll need to create an AWS account. You can do that by going to aws.amazon.com and click on the Create an AWS Account link. After you've done that, you can go to Marketplace and search for Rocket Software. Here we see Rocket Multi-Value Application Platform Developer Edition. Let's go ahead and click on that. Here there's a product overview that talks about what's on the image. Let's go ahead and subscribe. And we'll continue to configuration. We'll accept the defaults in this first set of prompts. Continue to launch. And there are some usage instructions we can see here. One thing we want to pay particular attention to is the ports that are the ports that we'll need to enable on this instance. So we'll keep those in the back of our mind. I go ahead and click through. So we'll choose the T2 small EC2 instance type. We'll go with our default VPC that was set up for us when we created an account. And don't have a subnet right now, so we'll need to create one. Let's click the Create a Subnet in EC2 link. Create a subnet. We'll use the VPC we'll use the default VPC, and we'll give it a CIDR block of about 24. Okay, so we have a subnet created. Let's go back to the wizard, refresh our list of subnets, and it picked the only one that's available now. Move on to security group settings. Let's go ahead and create a new security group. Give it a name. We'll go ahead and hit save here, and then we'll go back to our console and make the needed changes. Let's page down to security groups. And here's the one that here's the security group that the wizard created for us. Let's just make a few modifications to that. Edit the inbound rules. Let's add a new rule, custom TCP IP, and let's do 7171. This is the port that the MVIS REST server will listen on by default. And we'll give it a CIDR block of all zeros. If you want to limit this to a particular IP address range that your clients will be connecting from, that would be the ideal way to do it. But for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to open it up to all source IP addresses right now. Add another rule. This one is for the admin UI of MVIS. And we'll add one more as well, 7870, which is the UniRPC port that MVIS listens on. And we'll add one more rule, MV admin, if you want to use this with MVX. You'll want to set up the MV admin server as well. So let's save these changes. And now we have a security group configured. And the last thing we'll want to do is to create a key pair in EC2. Let's go ahead and create a fresh key pair. I'll create a new one. And I'm going to choose PPK because I know that works with PuTTY, which is the client that I'll use to connect via SSH with. I'm going to go ahead and save the private key to my local machine. And we should be good to go. Let's refresh the list of keys in our account and pick the one that we just created and go ahead and create it and go ahead and click launch. It says we've got our instance launched. We'll go ahead and verify that from the EC2 console. And we see it's in a pending state right now. I'll just wait for it. And once it's running, we can connect, but the first thing we're going to do before we connect is give it a public IP address. If you look down here at the details of this instance, we see there's no public IP yet, so let's go ahead and create one for it. We'll go to Actions, Networking, Manage IP Addresses. Let's allocate an elastic IP address. And we'll pick from Amazon's pool of IPv4 addresses available to us. We'll go ahead and allocate one. And now that we have it allocated, we want to associate it. I'll put it in my clipboard. We'll want to associate this public IP address with the instance that we just created. So now we should have a public IP address available, and indeed we do. Put that in our clipboard. We'll put that in our clipboard and go ahead and connect to it. So if we click the connect button here, we see instructions on how to go about connecting. We're going to go ahead and use PuTTY in this example. So let me open PuTTY up. We'll put in our IP address, the public IP address. We'll give it a name. Save that, but we do need to make a change to SSH. Let's go and browse to our SSH private key that we just created. And we'll tell PuTTY to use that when it's connecting to our instance. Save those changes and connect. We'll log in as CentOS since this is a CentOS image. And let's take a look around. We'll first go to USR UV, and here we see our universe installation. If we go to USR MVIS, we'll see our MVIS installation. And by default, MVIS is already started on this instance. We will need to start the admin interface, however. So we'll go ahead and do that now. Let's become the UVDB user, and then we'll start the admin interface. Then we'll go over to a browser and see if we can make a connection. Looks good. Let's log in. Default credentials, and we'll take a quick look around. If we go to our accounts, we have one connection pool created out of the box. It is pointing to the XDemo account in Universe. If we go to edit the account, we can see some of those details. The account name is XDemo, running on localhost on this instance itself, and it's serving up a REST protocol from the XDemo Universe account. If we go over to our REST server, we can see that that account has a number of endpoints already created. Let's take a look at the members endpoint. So here you can see we can do our typical CRUD-based operations on the members file. Let's just go ahead and select the entire members file. So we'll just try it out quickly here. We'll leave all of the query string parameters blank to select just the file itself in its entirety. Go ahead and execute. This endpoint is password protected, so we'll enter the credentials. And we get a list of all of the members at this endpoint. Now there's a sample application that ships with the MV Developer Edition AWS image. It is located in the user MVIS directory. If I go to XDemo, you can see here there's a Node.js application that we can actually download to our Windows machine and give it a run there. So let's go ahead and do that. I've downloaded it here, and I've gone ahead and made the one change that you would need to make, which is in config.js. We'll need to change the IP address, the base endpoint URL, to the public IP address of our AWS instance. I've made that change. Once you are ready to run it, you can say npm install and then npm start. And it will launch that application on your developer desktop. And we can access it here. So please check that out along with our React-based demo that you can find in the resources.